Hello and welcome. My name is Costa, and in this tutorial what we're going to do is we'll take an Excel file and create a lot of PDFs out of it. I already have a file that we can use for this purpose. So it's a file called data, and in that file I have two tabs that we're going to use. The first one contains data regarding 40 employees. Of course, these are not real data, but we use them for this purpose. So we have the name, the surname, the salary information, and email and phone number as well. So what the final result would look like is we would have this script where if we run it, we get a PDF file for every employee, and also one that combines all the PDF files and has them all in one file. So this would be the final result. If we open any of them, we already have the name and the ID and the month as part of the document name. So this is how it would look like at the end. If you think that this is something that you're interested in learning, then stay tuned in this tutorial and let's get started coding. I'm going to delete all the PDF files, so we're going to start from scratch, and I'll also delete the script that I've created before. So first of all, we do need to import some modules, and the first step is to learn how to read values from an Excel file. For that purpose, we're going to use Openpyxl. So if you have not installed, please go and use pip-install to have Openpyxl. So import Openpyxl. And what this will allow us, well, first of all, we need to specify the file or the workbook itself. We do that by loading the workbook using openpyxl.load workbook, and in the brackets we have the path to our workbook. Now, what you need to notice is that the backslash is an escape character in Python. So when specifying the path, you need to double it, so to escape itself, to make sure that it leads to the correct path. So for every backslash that you have, you need to include another one. And at the end, of course, you need to include the file name. So if you're not sure what type of file you have, you can right click on it, click properties, and sure enough, on the first page you will see the type of file. So the one that I have ends with xlsx. So my file would be data.xlsx. Every Excel file has multiple sheets. So the first step is, once we have loaded the workbook, in this case I have two sheets. So I have one that's regarding employees, which we're going to use to create a bunch of PDF files, and there's one regarding invoices. So for the first task, I would like to use the data that are stored under the sheet employees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify the sheet, and the way I do it is sheet equals workbook dot get sheet by name. Then I specify the name. So in this case, it's employees. Once I have the sheet name, I can play with the numbers. And for example, if I print sheet.cell, so the cell, and then I specify the row and column. So for example, row 2, column 3 dot value. So I want to get the value of that cell. If I run this, I should get the value. Yeah, let me save this real quick. So payslip script. Import Openpyxl. And sure enough, I have this warning, which you can ignore for now, and we have Hoffman. So if I open the file, if I take a look at row 2, column 3, I should get Hoffman. So row 2, column 3. Sure enough, that's the value that I was looking for. So now we already know how to get any value from any Excel file. So first we link to the file, then we link to the sheet. Now if we want to create a PDF, of course we need to make it a bit more complex. We can't really just print out values out of an Excel file. So for that reason, first what we're going to do is we're going to, if you have not installed, install Reportlab, and then once you do that, from reportlab.pdfgen import canvas. What Canvas does is basically it creates an empty PDF file. So we can specify the page width and height. So I think that it is important to have that at the beginning, so it's flexible. So if you specify page width at the beginning, it's easy for you to go back and change it later on and resize it to any format. I'm going to use this one based on the printer that I have, and but you can always go, you can Google the number of pixels that you have in any paper format, so A4 or A5, and then adjust this part. For learning purposes, I'm going to use this size, so I think that would be fine. What we need to do is basically for every row in our Excel file create one PDF. So basically we have to call this canvas function every time we iterate through a row. So as we can see here, we have 40 employees, but they start from 2, so row 2, and they end in row 41. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to define a create payslip function, create payslip, and we would say that for every row, let's call it I, in the range 2 to 41 to 42 in this case. So we start with row 42 and go up to 42, not included 42. And then what we would like to get first, we would like to extract the information from the Excel file. So we already saw that we have the first name, the last name, we have the gross salary, the ID, and that's very good, and that's the first thing to do. So I'm going to zoom in a bit more here. So the first column would be our ID. So if we go and create the employee ID, then we would get the sheet cell, and then the row, which used to be 2, now is I, because we iterate through every single row, and the column, well, the column would be the first column, and we would get the value. We'd have to specify that row is equal to I and column is equal to 1. That would be a bit more descriptive. And then we can say that, well, actually we don't need to comment anything, it's quite self-explanatory at the beginning. Employee name, well, I can just copy the same one, and now that's column 2. I can get the last name, so employee last name, that's column 3. I will get, I think I have this copy. I'm going to fill the rest so we save a bit of time, but basically gross salary, pension, health insurance, personal income tax, bonus payment, deduction, and net salary. So gross salary would refer to the gross salary of the employee, pension contribution, health insurance, personal income tax, bonus payment, deduction, and at the end we have the net salary. We do have an email and a phone number, but I don't really think that they would add value to include them in the payslip, so although they are included in our dataset, we're going to skip that for now. Alright, what do we do next? Well, first we need to call the canvas which we imported up here. So if we code c.canvas, c equals canvas.canvas, then first we need to specify the file name. So we're creating a PDF, an empty one, a completely empty one that has nothing in it. how would we want to name it? This is a very important decision to make at the beginning. At the database that I have, you will notice that I have employees with the same name. I did this on purpose, but in large companies that can be the case. So if you use the name and the surname as criteria to save a file, then you might run into error or you might overwrite files. So that is not the best way to do it. What I would suggest is, yeah, it would be good to start with employee's name. That's also good. So employee's name would be a good start. It's definitely useful to have it in as part of the file name. Then I would use underscore the employee last name, another underscore. Then I think that it is very good to have the employee ID. This should be a unique number, so it should be easy to filter by that if you need to find a payslip later on. And then at the end, I'm going to add another underscore, and then I would like to have the month and the year of the payslip. Now, since this is something that we're going to change over time, if we're going to use the script alone, I would say that it's best to include month, year as a string up here. So maybe August 2019 should be fine. So I'm going to add plus month, year, and then of course plus the extension .pdf. So if we run this correctly, then we should have a file, basically 40 files, 40 empty files with this name. So employer's name, last name, the ID, the month, year, plus PDF. Let's see if that's the case. So I'm going to run create payslip. Let's see if we run into any errors. And we're also going to for I in range. Oh yeah. Before running, we need to actually save. So now we just created, but we didn't save. So after saving, and there we are. So we have exactly 40 items that are correctly named. If we open any of them, we would not see anything because we don't have anything yet. We have not specified the width, we have not specified any data in it, so they're completely empty, but that's fine. So that's a good start. Next, we need to add some text. So what the canvas does is basically it takes an empty sheet of paper and then we specify what to add on it. First, as part of the canvas, now the canvas is already C, so for canvas, we're going to set the page size. And the page size would be the width and height that we already have above. So page width, page height. Next, we would like to set the font. Now, it is important to know that the script is run from top to bottom. So setting the font is something that can be done multiple times in the script. Think of it as writing a text in a Word file. You can set the font, write some words, then set it to a different size, and then write some more words, and so on. So first thing what we're going to do is we're going to set the font as Arial, and we're going to use size 80. So it would be quite a large text. And then we would like to have the company's name on top. So let's put company name, and we would say this is the best company in the world. So we'd like to have the company's name on top, right? We already know page width and height, but what do they mean and how do we specify the company's basically the name, how do we make sure that it's actually in the middle? What you can think of is basically an X and a Y axis. The canvas is a blank piece of paper that has an X and Y coordinate. So if we have in our example 2000 by 3000, basically this is our X axis and this is our Y axis. So if we want to draw a text starting at point 100 at 100, it would start probably around here. If we want to draw a text at around 1000 by 1000, it would start around here. So basically what we do is we give the coordinates of the starting point, and then we also give the text that we would like Canvas to draw. But what do we do in case we want to put some text but we want it to be in the middle? So what if we want a text to be here? We don't really know this starting point. We don't know the ending point. So what we do is we first calculate the length of the word. Then we subtract it from the total width, which we already have, and we divide it by 2. So that way we know the distance between the left border and the beginning of the word. In order to do that, of course, in order to measure the string width, so the width of the text, we need to import from reportlab.pdf-base.pdf metrics, we need to import string width. Now we already have the company's name. So the next part would be to measure its width. So we can say that the text width is string width of company name. But we do need to pass 2 more arguments, because the string width depends on the font that we use as well as the size. So if you're using a different size, then the width would be different, of course. Then we would like to draw string, and the string that we would like to draw is the company's name, but the starting point again would be the page width, so the total, minus the text width divided by 2. So that's our X starting point. So we already have this part. We already have the X starting point. What we need is the Y coordinate. So we know that the top is about 3050, and then we would like to have it on top but not matching with the top border. So I would use 2900 for this case, and then what we want to print is the company name. So if I run this function, what we're going to have is 40 PDF files with just the company name on top of it. Alright, so the next step is I would like to have some description, such as this is a salary pay slip for August 2019. How do I do that? It would be very similar to what we just did. So first we define the text. The text would be salary calculation for period, and then the period, well, the period we already have up here, so plus month year. Then we are going to use the same code as here. We're going to get the text width of the text that we just put, but we're not going to use 80 as font. That's way too large, so we're going to use 55. So we're going to use the font, but we also have to set the font as Arial and as 55. So again, we have to do the same thing as we did above. So draw string, we'll do this exactly same thing, except instead of printing the company name, we would like to print the text. I'm going to run this once, but I'm going to use just one payslip as an example to see if we get any error or if everything's fine. So instead of running it for 40 files and then deleting them, I'll just make a test for one. before running I should have page width, and then so if I run the code like this, I'll probably get an error due to the font, because what we need to do is we need to import a line regarding the Arial font. Yeah. In order to fix this part, so before we run the code, it is important to note that the Arial font that we currently use is not compatible for this purpose. How do we get past that? We need to import TT fonts. So from reportlab.pdfbase.tt fonts, import TT font, capital F. What this function can do for us is take the Arial font and convert it and make it compatible for our use. So I'm going to do this at the very beginning. PDF metrics.register font TT font, and then what we need is Arial, and then make it compatible. So Arial.ttf. So before running the script, there are actually few more lines of code that we need to incorporate in our script. First is to basically import PDF metrics, so we can use the string width. So from reportlab.pdfbase import PDF metrics, and then there is one more thing that we need to actually change. We actually copied this code below here, but what we would get as a result is both strings would be drawn on the same row, because basically we specified the same y-axis, and the y-axis you can think of it as the row. So in order to make this look nice, we have to put the second line a bit lower than the first one. So probably a good distance would be about 200 pixels below. So I would choose 2700 instead. So let's try to create one payslip. So we are using the data that we have in the second row, and basically we stop by row 3, so we only use the second row. So let's run the script, and yeah, a PDF file should appear and be named accordingly. We still print this line, so we can get rid of that. And the file that we received in the folder is, yeah, it's actually exactly what we asked for. So we have the title of the company, and we have an explanation. And as we can see, if we zoom out, it's quite centered. So we have the right space from both sides. This is of course part of what we needed. I'm going to delete this one so we can start from scratch. The next part is basically to include all the other tags that we would like to have in the payslips. So all the variables that we have up here, we need to include them as part of the payslip. How we would do that? Well, we actually already have seen the whole process. So we set the font, and then we draw the string and what we do is we specify the x and y coordinates of where we would like that string to start. There are a few things that are very important at this point. One is to set the font at a bit lower level. I would say 45 is good for this purpose, and then we would like to keep drawing strings with this font. So basically how the payslip would look like is we would have a description that would remain constant for all payslips, like employee name, and then we would like to have semicolons, and then we would like to have actually the employee's name. So that requires two separate strings that to be drawn. So the first one is draw string, and then here we would need the x and the y coordinates for each. So starting from left to right, so the x-axis we would like to be quite low, around 200, and then the y-axis we know that it should be below the 2700. So let's start with 2500, and what we would like to draw here is employee's name. Of course, cancel the abstract. Very nice. Now we continue with drawing actually the employee's name. Oh, actually the first one should be the employee's ID, not the name. So employee's ID. See the drawstring. Now we would like that to be more to the right, and although we don't know how long usually these are, we can already see that probably pension contribution would be the longest one. So I would guess it would be around 700, and then we would like it to be on the same row. So now we use the same y-axis, and what we would like to print is string of employee ID. Know that it's often the case that you should use the string. In many cases, like in the employee ID, it is a number as well as the salary and all this information. So you have to convert it. In some cases, it could be that it's already string, like the employee name and the last name. But there are cases such as it could be company's name, where it can contain both. It could be, of course, a string, but it could also be an integer. So it's always good to have this string converter at the beginning. Now, of course, once we have the ID, we would like to move on and get the name. And we can do that by doing the same thing again. So c.drawString, we would start at the same x coordinate. So we would like to have a clear line, and then we would like to go a bit below. So we would not start by 2500 again. We would like to start a bit below. But what we would actually do is that every time we want to have a new line, we would want to go a bit lower, right? So let's say that that lower is a spread that we can use. So we can actually have spread of 100 pixels, and every time we want to create a new string, we would decrease the y coordinate by that spread. So we can say that the y coordinate is 2500. So we would have a y coordinate, but here, before moving to the next line, we would like to decrease y coordinate by the spread that we've already specified up. But also, if you notice here, or maybe let's finish this one, then we'll go back to that one. So we would want it to be y, and then here is employee name. The name, again, drawString, and then we would again start from 700. So this would be the x coordinate, and it's again matching with the one above. So why don't we standardize that as well? So for this line we would use employee's name, but we would like to have the name plus an empty space plus employee's last name. And let's say that this would be the starting point, and this would be the starting point number 2. So we can put it as start is 200 and start number 2 is 700. So we can replace the x coordinates for both with start and start 2. And then again we would decrease the y by the spread of 100. Now we already have a code that we can reuse. If we just copy and paste it below, we would have so this part we have already finished, this part we have already finished, this part we have already finished. So next is the gross salary. So here we would have gross salary, and it would be just the string of gross underscore salary. So that part is almost done. That part is done, and as you can see, once you have the code ready, it makes it much easier to move and fill the other values. So pension contribution, would be pension underscore contract. Then I think I missed a parenthesis somewhere. Have I? Yep. Here. So the next one, pension contribution, how we have finished. Health insurance. So health underscore insurance would be the description. The next one would be, this one I have finished, personal income tax. Personal income tax is P underscore I underscore T. And then, as you can see, every time we go to the next line, we actually reduce the y coordinate by the spread that we have up front set. So that saves us some time, but it's much easier if we want to modify it at the end to just change one number at the top of our script, and that's pretty much it. So bonus payment bonus payment. And we have two more. So this one is done. So deduction and net salary. Deduction, it would be the string of deduction and net salary. Now there is one more thing that it would be useful to add at the very end, and that would be the signature, and a lot of companies actually require that, or in some countries it's mandatory. So what I would suggest is, once you're done with the variables and assigning that part, maybe it's good to have a drawString that again starts at the start part, but the y coordinate might be maybe it should be at the very end of the document. So maybe to make it more separated from all the variables, maybe increase the spread by 3 between the last row and that one. So that would be how the best way to do it, and we would write signature. The signature, well, of course we don't have the signature. We can import that as well if we have it, but otherwise we can just put drawString start start 2, and then we will just draw a long combination of underscores. So for this part, I believe that if we run this part, we should get a very nice payslip for one employee, and which we should be actually done with this part. So let's run the script and let's see what we get. If we get any error, net underscore salary, employee last name, E, and yeah, here it is. So this is how it looks like at the moment. If we want to have more spread between the lines, we can just increase the spread at the beginning of the script. If we want the signature to be a bit more to the bottom, we would increase the spread, the amount of spread that we have between the two. If we want to have anything modified, it would be much easier to do it since our script is already made. And of course, going forward with the month, we would just adjust only one field on the top of our script. Now the second part is to actually, now if we run this for all the documents, we would get 40 PDF files named as we asked for. So there would be 40 PDF files But if we want to send these over an email, or yeah, if we want to print them out, it would take a lot of time doing either attaching them one by one or printing them one by one. And for that reason, we can create another function, and we can call it define function merge underscore PDFs. So what we are going to do here is, first we are going to specify a path on where we would like Python to search for these files. So files directory would be basically the same one as above, but before that we need to also import OS, which would allow us to go to that direction, and the second one would be a PDF reader, so it's called PyPDF2. So if you have not installed it before, do it. And from PyPDF2 we need to import PDF file reader and PDF file merger. So make sure you have PyPDF2 installed before running the script, and let's continue. So we have the path. Again, make sure you cancel the backslashes. And then what we need to do is we need to search for all the files. So we would like to have all the PDF files that are within this directory. So F for F in os.list directory, which is basically the files directory that we specified before. We would like to add it if the file ends with .pdf. So that is our extension. Now we have our directory, and we also have a list of all the files that end with PDF. So basically we start with an empty list, and we would like to basically merge all the PDF files into that list. So we will call that as a merger, and it starts empty, so we have nothing in it. But for every file name that we have in the PDF file, so for every file that we have already extracted in the list, we would like to append it to the merger. And how we do that? Well, PDF file reader, and the file that we would like to read and to append is basically the files directory. So we reach out to the folder, and then we add to that the file name, and we would like to read the byte. Then once we're done with basically iterating through all the files, all the PDF files in the file directory, we would like to write the merger and basically create a file. We would like to create it in the same path as our files directory, and we would like to name it, let's say, merged pdfs.pdf. Now I'm not going to call this again, but I'm going to call merge PDFs. So let's see if we get any error. Merge. I think I missed. Yeah. And we should get another PDF file that would contain all the PDF files that we have until now. And here's the file. So it should have 40 pages, and if I go through them, I'll see different employees ID, different names, different information. So it works fine. So that was all for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed the content, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave it in the comment section below. If you like the video, make sure you like and subscribe, and in the next video we'll use the other sheet of the Excel file and create invoices. Until next time.